What it do, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm here to bring you guys another video in Swagmas. I have absolutely no idea when this video is going up. I just know that quite a few of you guys had asked for this, so I really wanted to do my best to bring it to you guys. And basically what you guys asked me for was just more in-depth information on my personal foundation collection. So in front of me right now, I have all 10 of my foundations and I want to kind of talk about them. I want to give you guys tips and tricks on like who a particular foundation is for. I'm going to give you guys swatches so that you guys can see swatches of all of the shades on my arm together, and that will be B-roll, so definitely stay tuned for that. So if you're like not really paying attention to the actual camera, not the camera, to the actual screen, I definitely would recommend paying attention to the screen this time because I will be having that B-roll in there and just kind of going through the collection, giving you guys, like I said, tips and tricks. So if you are interested, let's get into it.
The black man. Santa Claus the black man, and I found out that's what I'm telling you.
So yeah, first and foremost, of course, thank you to everybody who not only suggested this video, but liked the suggested comments. I really do appreciate it. It really helps me to know what you guys are interested in, but let's just dive on in. So in my opinion, first things first, when it comes to like picking a really good foundation is really figuring out what your, I don't even want to start with undertone. I want to start with this shade. And that is sometimes the trickiest part of foundation matches. Throughout my YouTube journey and my makeup journey, I have learned that for me, it is best for me to match my décolleté. And I will have a timestamp all throughout this video so that you guys can jump throughout the respective parts that you care to know about. So matching your décolleté, in my opinion, is the best method if you're going to do a more traditional full face, or even if you were going to do a more natural equivalent. I still think matching your décolleté is the best because that part tends to be the same shade as your neck, and you definitely want it to look kind of somewhat seamless. Otherwise, if you match your chest, not your chest, if you match your face instead of your chest, one, it's gonna look different. So you're gonna have to really bring that foundation down to blend in with your skin. But also throughout the day, I found that my oils, when they kind of came up to the surface, because I am combination oily, actually made the foundation and the powder on top of it look even or appear deeper. And so it just perpetuated a problem that I already kind of didn't even know I had, where I was already looking a little bit two-toned. One part of my face was a darker skin tone, the other was a different skin tone, and it just got worse throughout the day. So first things first, definitely match your chest. That is easy. Well, I don't want to say easy, but that is easily done by quite literally taking a swatch of the product and just swiping it on your chest. If you can't do that, typically I would say people's chest is a very similar shade to their inner arm. So definitely go ahead and swatch on your inner arm at the least, I would say, and that's how my B-roll is going to be, just because it's easier for me in this kind of constantly filming time period. Now, when it comes to foundation, there's really a wide range of coverage and of course finish types. So I'm going to try to talk about each of those separately. When it comes to the coverage, you can go very, very light, where it looks like you just have like a watered tint over with a very, very minimal amount of coverage or color in that actual product, all the way to something that looks super opaque, where you can't really see not one minute portion of any potential imperfection that are on your skin. And then of course all the way in between, where you kind of get a little bit of coverage, but you can also see a little bit of your skin as well. So that's how you can really get the gambit when it comes to coverage. And I do have a slight variety in that realm. And then when it comes to finish, you can have something that is straight up matte, which typically people who are oily or combination skin typically like that type of finish because they find that those foundations just last longer throughout the day on their skin types. Or you can have something that is straight up dewy wet, where it looks super wet when you apply it. But if you have dry skin, that could really work for you because throughout the day, your skin will absorb that moisture and it will kind of look more skin-like towards the end of the day. And then of course, at the middle of that huge spectrum, you have something that looks skin-like when you apply it. And hopefully with the combination of your powders and your primers, it will continue to look skin-like throughout the day. So those are just some background information that I just really wanted to get out the way for you guys. I don't know what point of makeup, love, interest, collection, knowledge you're at. And I just wanted to kind of give that background because to be quite honest, it took me some time personally even to gain that knowledge. So why not share it with you guys? Now, when it comes to my collection, one of what I would consider the lightest appearing foundations, because I only pretty much have light medium to full coverage. I really don't do light foundations. In that instance, for me, I might as well just not wear a foundation. But one of the most light appearing foundations and feel of light foundation is this one. This is the Seal Tint and Protect SPF Tinted Serum. Now, this is one of those products that immediately when I tried it out, I started recommending it. I cannot recommend this product enough. There is a dropper applicator and I have used this for long stretches of time. I am currently giving it a break, but so far the dropper, I'm not having any issues with it at all. My shade in this is 10 medium rich, and I will have my shade and all of these listed and linked down below for you guys. So do not worry in case you don't catch the shades. But this product looks very skin-like in my opinion. It's not overly dewy. None of these foundations are going to be overly dewy. So if you are combination skin, normal skin, or dry and you just kind of like a more skin-like finish, these would be recommendations for you. To be quite honest, I have very few matte finish recommendations, so pay attention to those one or two that I do recommend. But like I said, this is a skin-like finish in my opinion. It is a light medium to a solid medium coverage. I definitely don't think that you can build this up to full. I just think that it won't look right and it will just look very cakey and very oily and greasy, so no need for that. But the finish on the skin is beautiful in my opinion, and because it doesn't have a whole lot of coverage, the shade range, although I don't think the best, is workable because more people can really use the shade range. This is one that's only available at Sephora, so it is a higher end foundation. I pretty much have higher end foundations exclusively, but I really do enjoy this. As for the SPF, you're not going to be using enough of this product to really get the full kit and caboodle when it comes to that, but I do like it, so I will definitely recommend it. It is definitely one of my top foundations in my collection. Then we got the Merit multi-stick, or I think it's actually considered a foundation stick. This is in the shade Cacao, and this is the shade that I recommend if you are somebody who is a shade twin to me. This is pretty dead on in their range. I accidentally picked up the wrong shade in the foundation stick. Cacao is the one that's too dark for me, and that's the one that they actually sent to me. This is the shade I picked up that actually works for my skin tone, and it's sepia. I'm going to try to make sure I'm in the light so that you guys can see. As you can see, swatching it on my inner arm, it's not dead on. None of the foundations are really dead on, but they're close. And so this is what I would recommend. Once again, I would recommend sepia, not cacao. Let's go back to the original programming. Now this foundation does have a skin-like finish, though, although it is leaning slightly more towards the matte realm because of the type of product that it is. Because it's a stick, it will tend to be a little bit more mattifying or look drier or matter on the skin than something that's in a more liquid consistency. This isn't too expensive in my opinion, although once again, it is available at Sephora. And overall, I like this foundation. I find that you have to exclusively apply this with a brush. So if you are not somebody who enjoys applying foundation with a brush, I definitely would not recommend this particular product. Otherwise, all of my other foundations, you can use a brush or a sponge. Although with liquid products, I just tend to prefer using a sponge personally. But overall, I do like this foundation. I think that that is a very easy, no fuss, no must foundation. And I will also try very quickly, to link any and all videos recent down below for you guys so that you can see a really quick kind of application of these products all over my face in case that is helpful for you as well. But this foundation is really, really good. I think that is best for somebody who wants to only apply like 3 products on their face every day and leave out the door. Whereas some of these other products where you have to kind of wet a sponge, apply it with a sponge, stuff like that, is not the best for somebody who wants like a really quick and go makeup look. One of my favorite and kind of go-to foundations lately, since I honestly kind of forgot about it, but more in the you have to forget about it so you actually can keep this for more than 2 months, is the Juvia's Place I Am foundation. I have this in the shade Legos. This is a beautiful, beautiful, once again, skin-like finish. I think that this is a little bit more on that medium to high medium coverage level, which I really, really do enjoy. This does have a pump, which I'm not hating at all. And yeah, I usually apply like 3-ish pumps. That's just a personal kind of go-to for me. This is a really good match in my opinion. This is drugstore, so this is going to be one of my more affordable foundations that I will be talking about in this video. Highly, highly recommended. And this is a black owned brand in case that is something of interest to you. Next is the Yensa BC foundation product. I consider this in my head a tinted moisturizer mainly because of the packaging, but they do consider it a full coverage foundation. In my opinion, this applies for me more of a high medium to full coverage foundation. It's probably my application medium though, because once again, I do use a sponge. This does have a pump on the end, and I actually really like this. Although for me, when I see this packaging, once again, I think of a little bit lighter of a coverage, and this gives a lot more of a matter finish than I traditionally reach for. So if you are considering between the two kind of tube products because you like this type of packaging, it's easy to travel, whatever, this one definitely gives a lot more of a satin skin like I wouldn't say radiant, but it's closer to a radiant finish, and this one is definitely closer to a more matte finish. So definitely keep that in mind. But because of that, I do like it. Do not get me wrong. I definitely do like this product, but I haven't really gone in on it because of that. This also does have a variety of different sunscreens, so do keep that in mind in case you are sensitive to particular sunscreens. This may not work for you. There's very, very few dark shades in this range. This is deep warm, and I do find that this is a little bit too warm for my skin, but I really like it, so I make it work. And for the ones that it's not too bad, I will make work. But pretty much in 2024, I will not be bringing in any foundations that do not work perfectly for me, because like, who has the time? Who has the time? Then coming in on something that probably I should have actually switched if I was doing like this more so gradient with the Yensa, but I kind of, like I said, I wanted to kind of do some comparisons for you guys throughout this video of all of these foundations. Anyways, the Makeup by Mario foundation. This is their Surreal Skin, and I have now the shade 24 in. I did previously have a second shade, but that one had to go, and this is the shade that actually works for me. I did recently do a video where I showcased this product. I believe it was the one talking about the updates of my life pretty much. So this product was featured there, and this is actually a really good foundation shade. The actual consistency consistency and the longevity of this product is really not the best. This is actually, I would say, the worst longevity out of my whole collection. This is just, it really doesn't do very good. I would say about the 4 to 5 hour mark, it starts to break down on my skin tone. The next worst, I would say, is the Merit, just because of how much layers I apply to get the coverage level that I want, because that range really isn't meant for, like, you know, medium, high, medium amounts of coverage. But anyways, going back to this foundation for my skin color, I don't see the shimmer, although lighter skin colors do tend to see it, so definitely keep that in mind. Otherwise, this definitely is a, like I said, solid medium coverage, but very, very glowy. And so I really find that I have to really set my face and then drench my face with setting sprays to get rid of that kind of powdered effect, to overall get the effect that I want. This is not a favorite at all, but this is one that I can get use out of, and I think is one that would be good to keep in my collection for comparison's sake. And so that's why I'm doing it. Plus, like I said, that shade I can actually get really good use out of. A shade or a product that a lot of people compared that to is the Haus Labs. I love this infinitely more, infinitely more. This is in the shade 480, medium deep, I believe neutral. Yep. And this is a really, really great quality product. This is medium coverage. You can build it up, although I wouldn't build it up to more than high medium coverage. This has a very, very, very skin-like finish. I mean, it pretty much looks like second skin in a bottle, in my opinion. And because this matches so good, it just works great for me. This is another favorite. This was a favorite foundation for me in 2022, and yeah, it's great. This does have a slighter drier finish than the Makeup by Mario, but if I'm comparing it to foundations of this year, this has a slighter matter finish than this, so definitely kind of garner your opinions on that. This looks a little bit more glass-like in my opinion, but this is a fantastic foundation. Absolutely love it. I definitely would reach for this more so on days where it's like, you know, I'm doing studio makeup, like if I did that, which I really don't, or like if I was going on red carpet, which that will never happen. So like something like that, like I would definitely reach for that foundation for a night where I want to look flawless and have no imperfections anywhere. The last foundation that I want to kind of compare to the Makeup by Mario and the Haus Labs is this baby right here. This is the Makeup Forever HD in the shade 4N68. Once again, this is a very kind of reminiscent product to those two previous ones that I mentioned. This is a skin-like finish, as it suggests. This is great for photography or any form of videography or anything like that, hence the HD range at Makeup Forever. This is a decent shade match, although it's not the best, but it's a decent shade match, and I really like it. It does last, in my opinion. I don't find that I have any issues with like smile lines, and I do have smile lines because I can laugh, y'all. I can laugh. So that is definitely an issue for me sometimes. I don't find that this is overly dewy, but I do find that this is kind of the sweet spot between the Makeup by Mario and the Haus Labs. So depending on, once again, your interest, it does definitely garner on this. This is definitely a lot more liquidy than those two. I would say the thicker of the three would definitely be the Haus Labs, and then the Makeup by Mario is more in the middle. This is definitely, in my opinion, the most liquid of these three that I'm comparing temporarily. This foundation is steady. You know it's dependable. You know how it's going to work. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's steady and dependable. So it's definitely going to be in my collection. I'm not going to declutter or anything. I'm going to get my use out of it, but I think I'm going to kind of work through some of my favorites first, and then kind of whittle through the rest of this collection. Coming in with the last three foundations that I have here on my desk, and these, in my opinion, have the most kind of full coverage effect that I find. I don't tend to reach for full coverage foundations at that regularly, so you won't see all that much of a dent in these products, but I do enjoy these products nonetheless. So first things first is my LYS Triple Fix Fluid Foundation in the shade DN6. This is a really good foundation. Now the difference between this and the other two that I'll be talking about in just a second is that this, in my opinion, can start off as medium and go all the way to full, and this is a very nice skin like full or medium coverage. If I'm comparing it to anything, I would say this is like a more foundation-y type product to this one. It is very comparable in my opinion to the Yensa. The Yensa in my head is just always going to be more of a tinted moisturizer, whereas the LYS is going to be like the foundation equivalent. Even though Yensa considers that a foundation, I just always in my head consider it a BB cream or a tinted moisturizer. Anyways, this is a really good product. It does once again give more of a matte finish, if I didn't already say. So for me, it's not one that I reach for on like an everyday basis. This is something that I would reach for on special occasions or when I'm featuring the brand, because the brand's formula is great. I definitely would highly recommend all of these more mattifying or matte finishes to people who have more of an oily skin type. So definitely keep that in mind. But yeah, very happy for this LYS foundation. I definitely think it is a good one, and I would highly recommend. If I did not mention, I am affiliated with the brand, but I did pick that foundation up, and that foundation is one of the more high-end foundations that is affordable. So this is a comparable price to my Juvia's Place, so keep that in mind. Okay, two more foundations and then I can give my voice a rest. Next we have the Pat McGrath Labs foundation. This is the Skin Fetish in Deep 30. This is a really nice foundation. It is super liquidy, so do kind of have that in knowledge. I didn't expect that. I was very surprised when I first got this foundation. Super liquidy, but what it gives in liquefaction, if that makes sense, it definitely gives you in coverage level. In my opinion, once again, this is another kind of medium to full, although I don't think you can get like a solid medium. I think you're more on that high medium to full coverage. So you really need to want a kind of very flawless base. Once again, not something that I reach for a lot. I love the packaging. Out of all of the packaging, this and like the House Labs are the two that actually feel weighted. They feel luxurious. They feel exclusive, if you will. I really like this coverage. I like the color like match. It's really nice, and the finish is a little bit more skin like. I would say between the LYS and the Pat McGrath, this is a little bit more skin like. This is a little bit more mattifying, which once again, I like a little bit of variety. I like to have all of these things to compare depending on my mood of the day. So I'm not mad to have this in my collection. This is one, if not the most expensive foundation here in this collection. So definitely keep that in mind. It's not cheap, but also know that Pat McGrath does 30 and 40% off sales all the time. So you can always get it for a discount and maybe kind of bring it down to the more mid range, kind of high end range, and not so luxurious in that price tag. So the last one that I have to talk to you guys about is one that I don't think a lot of people expected me to still keep in my collection. So this is the KVD Good Apple in the shade Tan 078. That's right, you heard me say I am a tan. This is the first and probably only range that I will ever be a tan. I was a pretty light range in House Labs though, I will say. I think I was medium deep. Yeah, I was medium deep in House Labs, which is still impressive. It's quite impressive. But anyways, this is one of the foundations that in my opinion, you really can't get medium coverage here. You pretty much get full coverage here. This is very much a skin-like finish, and it gives more of a like gel serum base consistency feel when you apply it. So once again, looking at this little miniature trio that I'm comparing it, this is a little bit more radiant, a little bit more serum radiance skin-like than this one. So definitely know that. And then of course the LYS is the most mattifying in this little trio. So I really like this, once again, for a full coverage that I want to have a skin-like finish. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, KVD always touts at having really high coverage, and I do find that this is extremely high coverage. I pretty much tested this out because I was really interested, and I have not reached for it again, mainly because I genuinely don't reach for full coverage products. I love this. I'm going to keep it, of course, but at least my other two kind of mentally full coverage foundations, I find that I can make them look a little bit more medium or something like that. Whereas that one, it's pretty much full on full coverage. So very, very quickly, if we're talking about like top 3 products that I want to recommend to you guys, I think this is going to be an easy one. So first, of course, I'm not doing these in a ranked order, but the Seal Tint and Protect SPF, top for me. Another top is going to be the Juvia's Place I Am Magic. I really love this product. And then the last top for me is going to be the House Labs. Those are the top 3 foundations that over the time that I've had all of these in my collection, they have been the ones that I have gravitated towards and had to tell myself to stop reaching for them. Really quickly, I'm just going to give you guys the kind of groupings in a different way, and then we will wrap this video up. Okay, so if you're asking me what's the more matter of the foundations that you're talking about here today, Blake. So first is going to be the LYS Triple Fix. We also have the Yensa BC Foundation. And then we have the Merit Stick. Those are the 3 foundations that I would say if you're looking specifically for a matte-ish finish. They're not full on matte, definitely not 2017 type of matte, but they're like a skin type matte. Those are the 3 that I would say definitely look at and like re-listen to my review or look at other people's reviews, of course. If you're looking at I am dry skin and I need something that's dry skin friendly, I want do. These are the 3 that I would say look into, and this is the full coverage from KVD. I think that is one of the fuller coverage that has the most kind of skin like finish that's very, very dewy. Of course, the Seal Tint and Protect. And then lastly, but certainly not least, the By Mario foundation. I think out of all of this is definitely the one that is the most radiant. Something that I just remembered that I did not mention, be careful with how much of the seal you apply. If you put too much, it will definitely break down in your smile lines. I remember that happening the first time after about the 4 to 5 hour mark of me wearing this, but the subsequent times that I wore it after, I don't want to say the less, but not building too much, pretty much doing like maybe 2 to 3 dots, not dots, but 2 to 3 drops all throughout my face in the 3 zones was pretty much the amount of that I covered up, that I used to create my coverage. So keep that in mind on that. I'm sorry I forgot to mention it, but I did want to make sure you guys knew that. And then the last grouping is like the solids, where I don't think it's too radiant, but it's also not too matte. So once again, Juvia's Place I Am Magic, House Labs Foundation, Makeup Forever HD, and then lastly, Pat McGrath Foundation. Okay guys, so really quickly, Blake from like 2 minutes in the future, I was putting everything away and I realized I forgot a foundation product. So this is the BB cream from Hemish. I got this off of YesStyle. This is a really good product. This has a very skin-like finish, medium to high medium. I don't think you could build this up to full coverage, but I just personally don't try that with this type of product. BB creams, I feel like you can't really build too much. This is a really good shade match for me. This is 31 in deep, and yeah, I really like this. This is skin like. I wouldn't say that it's overly dewy or overly matte. If we're looking at my more tubular type products, I definitely, once again, I have the range here, right? So the Yensa is definitely the most mattifying foundation out of, well, tinted moisturizer, whatever, out of all 3 of these. I would say the Hemish is a little bit more a little bit more skin-like in the grand scheme of this kind of trio. And then you have the Juvia's Place, which is the most radiant. Although for me, even though it is radiant in the title and it does appear radiant, it still has good longevity on the skin. So I do really want to mention this, and I'm so sorry that I forgot. This does also have SPF, so keep that in mind. Once again, you're not going to be putting enough of this on to get the full SPF, so definitely recommend putting SPF under this product in general. But it's a really, really good product. And once again, if we're talking about all of the categories that I referenced at the end of this video, I would put this in the solid range as well. It's not too far off of all of those products, because I had the Juvia's Place in there, I had this, and yeah, the other products. I would put this where the same category that I had the Juvia's Place, where I think it definitely is a solid product. It's not super radiant like the other three, and neither is the Juvia's, because it lasts really well on the skin. So those are like the last kind of tidbits. I'm sorry for the lack of preparation in my part and skipping that foundation. That's what you get when you're pulling your foundations without your glasses on. So anyways, let's get back into the original programming for today's video. So yeah, I really hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I hope that all of the information that I told you guys, whether the groupings was helpful, the comparisons were helpful, so that you can determine what foundation may be useful to bring into your collection, or if none of these foundations are useful to bring into your collection. If you have a recommendation based on some of my favorites that I recommended that you would like to give to me, by all means, definitely shout it out down below. If you have a more drugstore equivalent, because pretty much this is the only drugstore that I have in this option, and you want to provide that for everybody else in the classroom, please, once again, comment that down below. Otherwise, I think that's it. I really, like I said, I hope this was helpful. If there's any other questions, anything else that you kind of want more information about when it comes to these products, definitely go ahead and give me that comment, and I will try my absolute best to bring it to you guys. So with that said, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.